Greetings. We're going to cover the NFA, the National Firearms Act. It's a lot of things that most people don't understand about what's legal and what's not legal, according to the ATF, in firearms ownership. The National Firearms Act are items that are registered for legal use, legal possession in the United States. There's several different ways that you can acquire NFA items. One is to produce one, another way is to manufacture one. We're going to go over some of those things, some of the things that are legal, some of the things that aren't legal, and what that process looks like. So what we have here on this first picture, that's your standard AR-15. This is not an NFA item. This is something you can go into the store, purchase just about anywhere, although Maryland's harder to do because they've got a bunch of stupid laws. But this is something that you don't need any tax stamp for. What the NFA regulates, several things that you can't have according to the NFA unless you go through the processes that we're going to outline in this presentation. So, what firearms are regulated by the NFA? 1. A shotgun having a barrel or barrels of less than 18 inches in length. So, shotguns have to have a barrel that is at least 18 inches long. A weapon made from a shotgun, if such weapon, as modified, has an overall length of less than 26 inches, or a barrel or barrels of less than 18 inches. So a shotgun has to have at least an 18-inch barrel, and with that 18-inch barrel can be no shorter than 26 inches overall. A rifle having a barrel less than 16 inches, a total weapon length of a rifle of less than 26 inches, any other weapon as defined in subsection E, which would be a machine gun, any silencer, or destructive device, which is usually like a pipe bomb, grenade, mines. There's a whole long list of them, but we're not going to cover that in this video. We're going to focus on SBRs, which is a short-barreled rifle, a rifle that has both a barrel length under 16 inches and an overall length under 26, which says right here you can't do, but we're going to explain how you can do it legally. It's awesome. We're also going to cover silencers. It's kind of an urban myth that silencers are illegal, and they're not. What is illegal is to own one without having it properly registered. So, I want an SBR. Well, first let's talk about what an SBR is. An SBR, short-barreled rifle, is a rifle that has a barrel length that is under 16 inches and or one or the other. It doesn't have to be both, can be both. An overall length of under 26 inches. So you can have a full-length rifle with a shorter barrel that makes it as an SBR, or if you have a rifle that say has an 18-inch barrel but a very, very short stock that makes it less than 26 inches long, that's still considered an SBR because it's under that 26-inch requirement. So, well, how do I go about getting an SBR? You just told me it was illegal. Well, the way you do that is what's called an ATF Form 1. What a Form 1 is a request and license to manufacture a weapon. Essentially, what that does is it makes you the manufacturer of the firearm. So we'll use Rock Rubber Arms. That's a common platform for building an AR-15 that we saw in the first picture. Let's say you want to make an SBR out of an AR-15. Standard legal AR length is 16-inch barrel. That gives you about an overall weapon length of about 30 inches. So you want one that's shorter than that. You want it to look like this. So you go with a 10.5-inch barrel. Well, you can't just take a 10.5-inch barrel and slap it on your lower because that's illegal. You have to do the Form 1. What the Form 1 does is you fill out all the information, you submit a $200 tax stamp. That tax stamp goes to the ATF and registers you as the manufacturer of this new firearm that has specifications that puts it in the NFA category. This is a H&K. This one also has a suppressor on it, or silencer as some people call it. We'll cover that in the next slide. But just as a point of reference, I'll show you what the Form 1 looks like. Simple document, not a big deal. It takes you about, if you're careful and don't make any mistakes, go through it carefully, 30 minutes, no problem, no big deal. So, let's say you want to put a suppressor on that same SBR, or you want to put a suppressor on your pistol, or you just want to have a suppressor. You can put it on whatever you want as long as it fits. Well, same thing. It's illegal to have one unless you register it. The way you go about registering a silencer is with a ATF Form 4. What the Form 4 does is you're registering the silencer. You're saying, whatever your name is, whether you buy it individually or through a trust, I'll cover that at the end. I'm purchasing this suppressor for this use, and it is now registered to me. That does not mean it's registered to a specific firearm or use. If you buy, SilenceScope makes a interchangeable suppressor system that works with multiple different calibers, so you can pay it's about $1,400. Say you pay $1,400 for the interchangeable suppressor, then it'll work on varying different weapon systems of different calibers. That way you're only paying for one tax stamp. It's a $200 tax stamp, and that suppressor is then legal to use on any firearm that it will fit on. Here's one on it's technically a pistol. Well, this one has if this didn't have a stock on it, that would be a pistol. Because it has a stock on it, it's an SBR. Stupid law, that's the way it works. Here's one on an SBR, and here's 3 on different pistols. Here's one on a Walther P22. But silencers are totally legal. All you have to do is submit the tax stamp stating that you're going to own one. The main area that you have to be careful with is intent to construct. For SBRs in particular, if you have all the parts to make your SBR, but you haven't done your form yet, they can say, well, all you have to do is put it together and you have an illegal weapon. So you have to make sure that the serialized part, which on an AR-15 is your lower receiver, is legal from a normal rifle where you buy it in parts, and that you do not have all of the parts necessary to complete your SBR until you get your tax stamp back from the ATF. Once you have your tax stamp back, then you can put everything together and you're good to go. So that's your Form 4 suppressors. Just to cover real quick, I mentioned trusts or individual sale. There's a law in place right now where they're trying to make trusts a little bit harder to get into, but there's essentially 2 different ways you can do a Form 1 or Form 4. One is individual, where you're registering it to your person. Like I would be J. Fargusson, firearms manufacturer X, whatever. A trust, on the other hand, is if I wanted to start a trust, I could do Fargusson Firearms International, and that anyone that I say is a trustworthy person, I can put on that same trust, and they have the same legal ownership of any items purchased or registered in that trust the same way that I do. So let's say your family has a trust and you want to have a bunch of suppressors. You have 5 suppressors within the trust. Well, Uncle Dave has the one for the rifle this week and I've got the one for the pistol, but next week we want to trade. Rather than having to do 2 tax stamps, you have individual suppressors for each person. Now you can do it for the trust and be totally legal to be able to swap it within the trust. It just makes it a lot easier for users. That's all I've got. I would do questions, but I wasn't there on Thursday, so I thank you guys for your time. Hope you know a little bit more about NFA items and know that it's attainable. Thank you.